Reverend Johnny Blevins to open the invocation.
Let's pray. Our Father, we thank you for another day to be alive and serve you. We thank you for this community and for the school system and all those who make it go. Give us wisdom tonight, give us direction, give us great unity as a community. And we pray this in thy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right. Thank you for coming. We're pleased if you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Here we go. That's who I was looking for. Go ahead.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Burton. Okay. Be seated. Board members, you have the agenda in front of you tonight. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as you've seen it?
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Wagner. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, second by Ms. Jennifer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing any opposed? No. Motion carries. Oh, okay. All right, board members, you have the approval of the open session minutes for February 26th. You had a chance to look at those. I need a motion to approve those minutes.
I mean,
A motion to approve those minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, by Dr. Blevins. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Hearing none opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, good news. Mr. Foster.
All right, good evening, everybody. Tonight I'm going to do some winter athletic recognitions. We have a whole bunch of them as we do the sports individually. If any of those students and or parents, guardians, or coaches would like to step up here, I would encourage them to. So again, some of this stuff I had to put separately because it's going to be difficult to get on screen, especially when you see our indoor track and our swimming. So we're going to start it right off. Maybe. So we're going to start with men and women's indoor track. The first thing we're going to recognize is Mr. Coach Clarence Edwards. He was the 1A men and women's indoor track of the year. He is in here, but I won't make him come up. So our men and women's indoor track teams were back-to-back conference.
Just hang out there and everybody let's see. Just hang right there and be good.
You don't have to. But the youngest, if you are on the indoor track team, if you just come on up here, we'll do it like that.
Yeah.
You
Come on, man.
He can have.
Stay out here.
Be with the people.
So you'll see right here, we had a ton of kids do some really great things this year. So all conference nominations, Alyssa Davis in the high jump and 55 meter, Anaya Edwards, 55 meter, 300 meter, 500 meter, and the 4x4 relay. Anna Hall, 4x800 relay. Ella Kleinhexel, the 1000 meter and the 4x8 relay. Maggie Sebastian, the 3200 meter and the 4x8 relay. Reagan Spear in the 55 meter hurdles, the 1000 meter, the 1600 meter, and the 4x400 relay. Maggie Tomlin, 300 meter, 500 meter, and the 4x4 relay. Sophie Welburn, the 4x800 relay and the 4x4 relay. Heston Canner, 55 meter hurdles. Holt Canner, the long jump, the triple jump, and the 4x4 meter relay. Mason Day in the 1000 meter, 1600 meter, and the 4x400 meter relay. And Mr. Lucas Keller with a 300 meter, the 500 meter, and the 4x400 relay. Conference awards that were set, Miss Anaya Edwards and Jericho Edwards set the 55 meter record. Anaya Edwards in the 300 meter, Lucas Keller in the 500 meter, Mason Day in the 1500 meter. In the 1600 meter relay, the women, Maggie Tomlin, Sophie Welburn, Reagan Spear, and Anaya Edwards held that. And then for our men in the 1600 meter relay, Lucas Keller, Holt Canner, Mason Day, Jericho Edwards. The next few slides are dedicated to Miss Anaya Edwards over here. She was our 1A women's indoor runner of the year. And she was also the 1A, 2A North Carolina High School Athletic Association Indoor Women's 55 meter and 500 meter state champion. All right, we'd also like to congratulate Mr. Jericho Edwards. He was recognized as the Northwest 1A Male Co-Runner of the Year. In terms of our actual state championship finishes, Anaya Edwards came in first in the 55-meter and the 500-meter. In the 4x4 women's relay, we came in second. Mason Day got 11th in the 1600-meter. Lucas Keller got 7th in the 500-meter. Jericho Edwards got 13th in the state in the 500-meter. Mason Day got 8th place in the 1,000-meter. Jericho Edwards in the 300-meter got 13th in the state, and our 4x4 men's relay team got 11th place in the 1A, 2A state championships. Thank y'all. You're good. While they're sitting down,
Their parents?
any parents? Yes.
Some of the parents? Can't do without the parents.
Be recognized if you'd like.
You can just wave at us. Thank you.
If any members of our swim program would like to step up here, I'll give you a second. All right, first up, we'd like to recognize Coach Oz Prim as the 1A Men and Women Swim Coach of the Year. And the next couple stats are pretty big for bragging rights. Our men's swim team members were recognized as the Northwest 1A Conference champions for the 10th year in a row. Our ladies have won conference championship the last 5 years in a row. For our men's state qualifiers in the men's 100 meter freestyle, Troy Snow got third. Michael Tragone got fourth in the 500 meter freestyle. Troy Snow, Luke McComb, Caleb White, and Webb Snyder got first in the 200 meter freestyle relay. Webb Snyder got second in the 100 meter backstroke. And Luke McComb, Caleb White, Webb Snyder, and Troy Snow got second in the 400 meter freestyle relay. For our ladies, in the women's 200 meter relay, Sophie Welburn, Serica Hatcher, Morgan Wiles, and Maya Brown got first. In the 50 meter freestyle, Sophie Welburn was first and Morgan Wiles in second. In the 100 meter fly, Morgan Wiles got second place. In the 100 meter freestyle, Sophie Welburn came in second place. And in the 200 meter freestyle relay, Morgan Wiles, Paloma Oliveri, Serica Hatcher, and Sophie Welburn came in second. And now for the North Carolina High School Athletic Association 1A, 2A state swim finishes. In the women's 200 meter relay, Sophie Welburn, Serica Hatcher, Morgan Wiles, and Maya Brown got fifth in the state. In the men's 200 meter medley relay, Webb Snyder, Luke McComb, Troy Snow, and Evan Baker placed seventh in the state. Women's 50 meter freestyle, Sophie Welburn got second. Women's 100 meter butterfly, Morgan Wiles got second. Men's 100 freestyle, Troy Snow placed eighth. Women's 200 meter freestyle relay, Morgan Wiles, Alyssa Dickerson, Serica Hatcher, and Sophie Welburn placed third. In the men's 100 meter backstroke, Webb Snyder got seventh. In the women's 400 meter freestyle relay, Morgan Wiles, Paloma Oliveri, Serica Hatcher, and Sophie Welburn placed fourth. And our women overall in the state of North Carolina placed fifth place. Okay, and next up, we're going to congratulate Miss Sophie Welburn for being recognized as the Northwest 1A Women's Swimmer of the Year. For our men, Mr. Troy Snow was our Northwest 1A Swimmer of the Year. Sorry, give him a little screen time. All right, moving on to wrestling. You sure can.
not the achievements. I want my people to remember, my kids to remember. It's the love that we share, the love that I have for them. I think that's important to recognize. Okay, I just want to say that.
For our high school wrestlers, Northwest 1A All Conference Wrestling, any of you guys here tonight can step up here. Miss Denise Hernandez, Enrique Lopez, Jake Wright, all won all conference awards. And Mr. Jaden Martin was our honorable mention. For the 1A Western Regional Wrestling finishes, Alejandro Lopez placed second, Mr. James Steele placed third, and Alejandro Diaz placed fourth. Big congratulations to Miss Denise Hernandez for placing fourth in the 114-pound division at the North Carolina High School Athletic Association 1A through 4A Midwest Region Qualifier. All right, any basketball youngins want to step up here? I've seen three, y'all, come on. All right. So for our men's Northwest 1A All Conference Award winners, Mr. Lauren Edwards received all conference nomination, and Aaron Caudle and Charlie Pelkey were our two honorable mentions. Do we have any of our women here? I don't think I saw. All right, for our ladies, Northwest 1A Conference Award winners, Miss Ayla Ford was our all-conference player, and Miss Presley Baker and Ashton Godby received an honorable mention, and Miss Presley Baker also made the Northwest All-Tournament team when we finished our conference tournament. That's all. Thank y'all.
Thank you. All right, now we have Dr. Jennifer Hall recognize the middle school girls swim team championship. Dr. Hall?
To say this is Elkin Middle School. Dr. John Darcy is the coach. He is on our Washington DC trip with our seniors. And so he left me with a few words. Coach Oz, you want to come up as well? Sure. And then I'll let you speak after I read his words. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Hall, and community. Thank you, board members, for taking the time to recognize our winter athletes. I am especially proud of this group of athletes. Last year, our girls' middle school swim team fell just short of capturing the conference title. And while second place is a wonderful accomplishment, it wasn't exactly what they wanted. This year, they set out from the very beginning of the season to achieve their accomplishment. And they set their goal to be conference champions. They are conference champions. With 5 wins and 1 loss. They dedicated the time and the effort needed to reach their goal, and they had fun along the way. I'm proud of all of our swimmers, but especially this group of girls for their hard work and dedication. Congrats, ladies. John Darcy. Okay.
I'm just glad to be part of the swim program here, and I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to be a part for these many, many years. Okay, so I'm thankful. We got great kids. And if this sport was 1A, if this sport was just 1A and not 1A, 2A, the charter schools, Elkin would daggum dominate pretty much year in, year out. Okay, I want you to appreciate that. We got great kids, they work hard. This is a tough sport, and the kids work hard. And I'm just so appreciative of each one.
That's a hard act to follow, you know? Oz, how long you been swim coach? At Elkin? Well, that was when Earl was here, so that had to be in the 1970s.
1970s?
I just I want to thank, and I know the community does and the board, I thank you so much for what you do and what you've done, okay? Because you know, I had a son on the swim team, and when he talks about his favorite coaches, guess who he talks about? And so you just cannot know the impact you've made positive on our kids. We thank you so much from the bottom of our heart. And I know everybody means it. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. Now we have a public forum, and we had no one sign up for public forum. Anybody online for public forum, Brett? No one is asked. Okay, so we'll take a 3-minute recess. 3-minute recess. Thank everyone for coming. Stay if you'd like. Show love toward one another. And thank you so much. We appreciate it. You know, wow. Hey. That's man, you know, that's right, you know, I'll tell you what. That's it happens, you know? Yeah, I mean, I could, there's a lot of things I could say, but I will just let that go, because I appreciate y'all staying. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's important. Okay, public information, Dr. Hall.
Yes, sir. You see, we have, one policy, 4150 on school assignment, that there was a change made to by, School Board Association. That change, there's only one, and it's on page 2 in Part C, number 1. And it says such a request, this is talking about the request for reassignment. Such a request must be submitted in writing to the superintendent by June the 1st. Well, they have stricken the words in writing. And I will make the suggestion that we want that in writing. We currently have a form, and we go through that process, and I feel more comfortable having that paper trail, so to speak. And so I would suggest that we reword by saying something about using our own form or whatnot to the superintendent by June the 1st. But we'll clean up the wording, but that's what I would suggest. But again, this is the first reading, and it'll set for 30 days, but that's the suggestion that I make to the board.
Mr. Chairman, if we change this, the first reading, will it revert back to being a first reading again?
No, it will not. And
Okay.
I want to make sure from Ally, we are able to edit that during the 30-day conference.
Then,
Yeah.
Mr.
And
Chairman.
so I would recommend we do that.
Okay.
And then include the verbiage about our own form and our superintendent. And then you can bring that back to the board.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that correct, Al?
Okay.
All right, I'm
Thank
sorry, Earl. Is that
No,
right?
sir,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say how dangerous it is
Yes,
if we don't have the word written in there. I was really struck by that in reading through the policy. I'm thinking that's opening us up to something potentially hazardous.
I think, I agree with you, and I think the other board members do too. I would also suggest that when we say writing, we have a paper trail. Because that'll be important that we document where the writing goes to the superintendent on our form, you know.
Okay.
As we have learned, we cannot be too specific. All right, so. That's true. Everybody, we're learning that together. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, sir. All right, now, anything else? I didn't hear you. Okay, we're good? Okay. All right. So now we'll move on to action items. Miss Allison, are you gonna do this for Allison, or is that what it would?
Have you got the copies of the calendar? Sure. The first one there listed is the early start school calendar. We presented these, or Allison, sorry, presented these at the last board meeting. So, Britt will pop those back up again, so
That'd be great.
we can look at those.
See if you can do that. That'd be great. Thank you.
This is the early start calendar proposed.
Okay.
This is the one that Allison spoke to, as well, that the majority of our parents, when she put it out for feedback, came back with the feedback that they preferred the early start calendar. And then she put together the actual numbers and she emailed those out and shared them with the board, I believe.
She did. She did, and
So this one would put, this is the early start, right? Okay. Here we go. Yeah, there it goes. This one would put the teachers coming back on August the 7th, and the students would start on August the 14th.
the 7th, 8th, and the 12th, then are teacher work days. Is that what that looks like?
7th, 8th, are work days, and the 9th and the 13th are optional.
Okay,
Work days, the 12th is also.
Okay.
A required work day.
okay. And then that would put,
Biggest thing would be, the exams would be before.
Yes,
Christmas.
exams with this calendar would be taken at the high school before Christmas break. That's
all right.
correct.
Can you show us the breaks there?
This also puts us, I will say, more in line with Surrey Community College. We had a meeting with those folks last week. Their first student day is August the 15th at the community college. So this puts our calendar more in line with the community college calendar.
And that's a confirmed date that they've approved?
Yes, they've already approved. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I know there was some question about that. Okay. It looks like the spring break's March the 10th to the 14th,
Yes.
and then the Christmas break is when down there in December? Okay, the
Starts
20th.
on the 20th.
The exams will be done before then.
Exams will be done by the 19th.
And is there, looks like a tentative last day is that May 29th?
Yes, yes, sir.
Any questions for Dr. Hall or regarding this particular calendar? Hearing none, will show us the other one?
And we'll pull up the traditional start calendar that she presented to you last month. It's pulling that up. I will remind the traditional calendar would not put the exams being taken before Christmas break for the high school students. Okay, so the first teacher workday here would be August 19th, and the first student day would be August 26th with this calendar. You can also see it would throw us off almost 2 weeks with the Surrey Community College calendar as well with this traditional.
The spring break's the same time, looks like in March, and then
Yes.
anticipated graduation is when? That'd be June?
June the 11th.
Okay. Any questions or for Dr. Hall on this calendar?
I have a question. On April, on the 17th and the 22nd. So those are 2 extra days that we have, I'm assuming right over Easter, where on the other calendar, we didn't have that. But yet, I mean, everything else is the same. So what changes when those teacher work days are? Like, why does that change? Why did the work days change? I mean, I know they're put someplace else, but I'm just curious why about that.
I know when the
Because that's
committee-
nice to have that.
Yeah, I know when the
Right,
committee met, there was a reasoning behind that. swapping out those 2 days, but I'm not sure. I can find out. I'll find out from Alice.
Any other questions? Comments?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if this is the place to make comment, but maybe we should have a motion in a second, then discussion. But my heart and empathy lies with the early start. And as many parents have expressed that they like that. My concern is that the General Assembly has mandated the traditional start. And last year, when we voted on it, Chairman Brenniger reminded me as we were walking to the parking lot that we realized we just broke the law tonight. And that is the one thing that concerns me. It's still the law, the traditional. And there are a number of school districts that have elected to go with the early start date. Do you know how many?
The last I checked, the number was up to 14, but I'm not sure now. I'm sure there's many more that have went with the early start.
All right, is there a recommendation on this, Dr. Hall?
If I may, I know, and I wholeheartedly agree about it being law, and it has been that way for quite some time now, the calendar law. As educators, we're stewards and we want to follow that. But also as educators, we want to do what's best for the people and for our students. And my recommendation would be the early start calendar. I feel like it's important to get the exams completed before the Christmas break. And I believe that's what the majority of I know that's what the majority of our parents who gave feedback said as well. They feel more comfortable with that early start and getting those exams in for the Christmas break. That traditional calendar also does not follow the community college calendar, which poses some problems and issues with our students, because we have a lot of students taking CCP courses with Surrey Community College. And when we are on break, some of them will be in class. And so that will mess up some vacationing time with parents and family, which poses an issue. Also, if you noticed, the last student day projected was June the 11th. Well, that's pending no weather. We got very lucky this year. But who's to say next year we don't have a lot of weather issues? And that June 11th date does not give us a lot of leeway with days. We look at number of hours. We have a little bit of cushion there, but if we had to make up time, we're going to struggle. And that may have been the reason we added in those 2 extra optional days in April and that one. I can't remember, but we've got to have some extra time built in, because I believe the law still says the teachers can't work past June the 15th, if I'm correct. And that June 11th was on a Thursday, you saw. So that won't allow us to put many days at the end of the school year if we have a lot of bad weather. So we got to take that into consideration, I believe, when we're thinking about these.
Well, I think historically, the last of March and the first of April have been some of our worst weather months.
Yes, sir.
I can remember in 1960, when the last Wednesday of March and the first 3 Wednesdays of April, we had unbelievable snow, and this whole western North Carolina was declared a national disaster. So we may still have bad weather.
True. Yes, sir.
Traditionally, those work days have been used as a cushion for snow days.
Right. You're right.
All right, so we have a recommendation from the superintendent. We need a motion, board. What's your pleasure?
I would like to make a motion to go with the early start day calendar.
We have
Second,
a motion, start with the early calendar, a second. Any more discussion?
Well, when the vote comes, I'm going to stand with the board, but I must voice publicly, I'm uneasy about violating the law in this area. And I will stand with the board, but do so uneasily. We'll either stand together or fall together.
Yes, sir. Any other discussion? Any comments? Well, I'll say this, I believe, and you see it, as divisive as politics are now in the world and in our community in different places. Anytime we can get, and the last number I saw was 87% of the parents in the community really liked the early start. And since I'm a firm believer in, doing what the elected people ask us to do, I think that this is the right decision to start in the early. I do have reservations, like Mr. Blackburn has, but, hopefully, elected officials, the government's best done by doing what the local, it's best run at the local level by the local elected officials. And I think that we have a mandate to them, and it is in the best interest of our kids. So I'll say that publicly as well. And perhaps there'll come a time where, we can see about maybe getting that law amended. So we'll see. I don't know, but as for me today, I think we should, vote for the early calendar for those reasons. And all right. All in favor of starting on the early date is recommended by the superintendent, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Hall.
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Creasy. Did I say that? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good evening, Dr. Hall, Chairman, Board. I know you're all very excited to see this presentation and we're going to hop right into it. So we're not here forever and we'll just get on in it. This is for the current year budget. So this is the 24 fiscal year budget. All right. All right, so before we start, I'm going to hop into a little finance 101. So when we get to this budget resolution, you're not overwhelmed. There's a lot of information on here, and that way you'll kind of know what's included in each purpose code. All right. I also ask that you kind of hold your questions for a little bit. I'll
Sure.
make sure when I say, hey, you got any questions? That way we can keep this flowing because I might answer them as I go throughout.
We'll hold them to the end.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding us.
All right. So we're going to start with our budget appropriation categories. These are basically our fund sources. So we have Fund 1, which is state, Fund 2, local, Fund 3, federal, Fund 4, capital outlay, Fund 5, child nutrition, and Fund 8, special revenue. Like I said, this is the places we receive funds at. Now, you guys look at our budget by purpose code. In the budget resolution, you will see items that say 5,000 instructional programs, or maybe something like 6,000 supporting services. And I'm getting ready to talk about that, so you'll see that in just a second. We're going to start off with our revenues. This is the 3,000 and 4,000 series that you'll see. And I'm not going to read everything off of here because you guys can see it and you can see, what it is. But the 3,000 is our revenue from our state and federal sources. And 4,000 is our revenue from our local sources. And like I said, you can see below what that might include. Okay. Okay, now we have our expenditures. I know this is the fun stuff. So this is the one everybody wants to talk about. Series 5,000 is our instructional services. It's the cost of activities that are dealing with teacher interactions with students. It includes salaries of teachers, TAs, contracted services, professional development, supplies, materials, things of that nature. Then we have Series 6,000. The Series 6,000 is our system-wide support services. And basically that includes things like administrative support, technical support, our fleet, logistical, things like that. So when you see that, I'm going to just think admins, buses, things like that. All right. I know I'm kind of going through this really quick, but you've got all this information, so you can always refer back to it. And if you have questions, ask me. All right, Series 7,000 ancillary services. This is our nutrition services. So when you think about this, think about our cafeteria, think food, think our amazing cafeteria staff, their equipment. That's what that includes. All right, and then we have the Series 8,000, which is non-program charges. This deals with unrelated to specific programs. You know, you're gonna see like scholarships in this, your charter school payments, things like that. And then Series 9,000, which is capital outlay. And that's gonna be your land, buildings, structures, improvements. And when you see that one, just think gym or roof replacement or renovations to like the auditorium or something. All right, is there any questions on this part?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Out of district tuition, Series 4,000.
Mhm.
What are we charging for out of district tuition at this time?
I believe it's $650 right now. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
That's only for the people that don't live in Surrey County. So anybody that lives in Surrey County, we do not charge them the $650. It's only the students that live outside. Is there any other questions?
And I think that we have discussed bringing that up to
Yes. Yes.
what we have to pay, what in district.
Yes, the current chart that was set forth next year, 24-25, it will bump up to 800 for out-of-district student. So it'll go from 650 to 800, but we have discussed taking that even farther. You're correct.
Well, I was gonna ask, why don't we just skip the steps and just go right up to where it should be?
Well, we certainly can. It's the board's privilege if they'd like to do that. It's just, we need to come up with that number. If they set that number, it's like 12, it's like 1260.
It's like 1260, I think.
I think it's the last number I heard was 1260. So, you know, so it's something the board can think about, contemplate.
And we'll deal with that next meeting,
We can.
or when is it scheduled, Dr. Hall?
We can do that in the next meeting for the budget's not to April 30th.
April 22nd, I believe, is our next meeting.
So,
Whenever your fee schedule is up.
right.
I don't know what other fees are on there that you typically.
We typically do that in April though, before
The next
county,
school year, so they
before the
can
county
budget it.
commissioner meeting on 30th.
As long as they have it in time for handbook.
Yeah, that's right. Will next month be good, handbook? I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
I can bring that to you.
We'll do that next month. Thank you. Okay.
So there's no out-of-district cost for any Surrey County resident.
$200 what it says on the chart. If they live.
It is
within Surrey
$200.
County.
I thought you said,
200,
okay.
but we don't get the money from Surrey County. The ADM per pupil, allotment per pupil, ADM that we get normally. So they only pay tuition, that's it.
So we don't, so a student from Surrey County, out of district but in county, we would not get the ADM for that. And the parents would have to pay 200 per
So-
student.
Students within Surrey County that are not in Elkin City Schools District pay $200. But we also get the money from Surrey County, that $1,280, we get that for them as well. But the students who live outside of Surrey, say they live in Wilkes, they pay tuition, that's all we get from them.
Okay.
So that'd be that $650, that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I do follow.
So in the county, we still get the ADM.
Right.
That's why it's only $200.
Okay.
If I'm not,
Okay.
if I'm not wrong, Surrey County and Mount Airy have a substantial higher amount for out of district than what we do.
They do, everybody,
Right
yeah,
now.
Everybody does.
everybody does. That's why,
Well, that's why I think,
that's why we're talking about going up.
Yeah.
I think we should just stop the incremental steps and just go right to the top figure, and that'll be consistent all the way across the board.
Do we have a separate out-of-state charge? Do we have any out-of-state students?
Believe we did with GLA, but I don't believe there was a separate charge for them.
I knew we did with them. I wasn't sure if there was a separate charge.
I think if I'm not mistaken, we have one or two from Virginia, right across the border up the way.
Perhaps, but I can't really speak on that. I don't know where the students are located at. So
Right.
as far as my end goes, I would say I do believe there is a few out of state. So,
Well, we can look and see if there's because we talked about having a fee structure that included that, but. Any other questions at this point for Ms. Creasy? We'll let her continue. Thank you.
okay. So before I continue, I'm going to discuss some of the increases we're going to see. This is from the state budget summary. You can go on North Carolina Department of Instruction's website and you can see this for 2024. For 2024, there was a 4% increase in salaries. Retirement rose from 2023 fiscal year to 2024 fiscal year. It went from 24.5% to 25.02%. Hospital insurance went from $7,397 to $7,557. So if you want to go see those amounts, they're on the North Carolina DPI website. It's called the summary of the budget. Now, before I hop into this budget resolution, I'm going to be upfront. We need to talk about the fund balance. I know that's what you guys are probably very interested in, so we'll get to that. When it comes to our fund balance, Fund 2, local, Fund 4, capital outlay, and Fund 8, special revenue or other revenue, is technically combined. These are our local sources. Right now, our fund balance is currently being hit roughly about $440,000.
Where are we with regard to these printouts?
This is not on the printout. This is just on my notes before I get into the budget resolution.
Could you repeat that, please?
Absolutely. We are hitting fund balance roughly $440,000. So I know you're probably wondering where this money went. So obviously we know we've talked about GLA. Portion of that is going to there, 140,000. There's that loss. I don't know the exact calculation for the ASU lab school. It'd be very detailed and hard to do, but we lost money from that as well. We know about our tax cut from Surrey County. That's another 100,000 that we lost right there. That didn't help. And I also want to mention that our Medicaid payments, we get reimbursed for Medicaid. They're way behind on that as well. I think they're back as far as 2021 when I emailed her and spoke with her. Now, on a lighter note, 163 of that is carryover. So basically, an example of this is I'm going to use family literacy. We got a check 2023, fiscal year 2023 at June. So this is very end. We take that money, might be roughly 50,000. We have to put it in there and it gets absorbed to fund balance because it's not for 2023, it's for 2024. So it goes in 2023, we absorb it into fund balance. 2024 comes, we have to take it back out. So that's 163 of that. It's just money we receive, it goes in, then comes right back out. Now, to tell you exactly where we're at with our fund balance, I'm going to give you kind of an estimation here. At close of fiscal year 2023 in our audit report, we stated we had $742,306. I said we spent roughly $440,000 this year already. That leaves our fund balance at roughly $300,000.
Right now.
Correct. And to put that in perspective, the auditor stated that $742,000 was roughly 15 days of operating expenses that we had. We're down to 6 days roughly. Now, there's not a whole lot I can do at this point for this year. The best thing that I can do is try to minimize spending with everybody and then start looking at next year to see where we can potentially, make some cutbacks on that front. And me and Dr. Hall, we've talked about it multiple times. We're going to work together. We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure out what we can do. And we're just going to try and put the brakes on for this year. I can't make any promises, but we're going to do we're going to do everything we can. So is there any questions on this part?
Questions? Hearing none. Thank you. Continue.
All right, we can go ahead and open the budget resolution. It's really a great looking document. All right, so keep in mind, you'll see local current expense fund. That's what I was talking about earlier. That's gonna be your fund two. And then it's got all the purpose codes. You guys look at our budget through purpose code. So it's a little different. But we'll get through it. So section one is gonna be your expenditures and section two will be your revenues. So I'm not gonna read these numbers out because you can read them. Our local budget expenditures includes things, like school supplies, janitorial supplies, insurance expenses, auditing expenses, our local supplements, some salaries. And then that's about what that is. Our revenues for this is that allotted money that we get from Surrey County per student. It also includes that supplemental tax that we receive. And I do believe that we also get some tuition that gets included in here. Scroll down. All right. This is the state public school fund. This is fund source number one. Now, this is going to include things like your classroom teacher salaries, your TA salaries, your textbook money, your digital resources, summer reading camps, some transportation. There's a little bit of everything in here. CTE, SROs, a lot of things of that nature. Now, the state does put more restrictions on how we can spend this money than local. We got more freedom with local funds than we do state. So we do have to make sure we follow their guidelines. And we also do receive some grants that are included in this amount. All right, just on to federal. All right, our federal fund is Fund 3. And I want to point out that at this time, this does include ESSER money because we did receive it. And it's about $500,000. And we have to remember that this ESSER money is gone. So after this, it is gone. We won't see it anymore. But I did have to include it for this time because it is part of our revenues. Typically, the federal grants are application based. We receive money for ESSER, we receive money for CTE, we receive money for preschool, student support and enrichment. That's what our revenues are there for. And then expenditures, we use it for salary, benefits, workshop expenses, supplies, materials. And again, the federal money is very restrictive of how we can use it. So we have to be very careful about what we do with it and how we use it. We'll go down to child nutrition. This is your Fund 5. I kind of talked about what we use child nutrition money for. Their salaries, the food, repairs of their equipment, the purchase of equipment, anything like that. Revenue does come from a variety of sources. Actually, we do receive money from local money. We do receive state money for this and even federal sometimes. So it's kind of a mixture and it's just thrown in this pot together for child nutrition purposes. Next is our capital outlay. And capital outlay is our Fund 4. And like I said, this includes, roof replacements, gym renovation, whatever you want to, anything to buildings, things like that. That's what I normally think of it as. Maintenance, upkeep, things we kind of have to have. Revenue does come from Surrey County, that allotted amount that we get for capital and our special projects that we ask for. We also get money and it goes in here for this. And those special projects are typically things like we ask money for technology, or we'll ask money to repair the Dixon Auditorium. That's what that is. Just specific things that we'll list out, and then they just give us a base amount typically. And just like I said, keep this in mind. This is for this year budget, okay? This part changes for 25. All right. Lastly, we have our Fund 8, which is special revenue. This one's actually interchangeable with our local funds, which is Fund 2. And this one we see expenditures for family literacy, DLI, JROTC, driver's ed. Our sources of revenue come from grants that have specific purposes, like we get one specifically for family literacy, or we get one specifically for DLI. That's where that is. We also put miscellaneous donations and things like that in this special revenue. Now, you'll scroll on down. And I want to make sure you guys realize our revenues do have to match our expenditures on this report. They do have to match. So here's our total. It's $17,944,769.49. At this time, is there any questions about the budget resolution?
Oh, I just have a question, only because when we were talking about instructional programs, which you said was like family literacy, DLI, all those things. So that's all under grant money? Like that's all funded by grant money, I mean?
From my understanding, I cannot speak clearly on this. Is it typically grant funded?
Yes. Is that like something that we will always get though then?
So
Hmm? Right. Right. Mhm. So would that mean the program would have to go away then if we were no longer able to receive it? And would that be the same for Heather? You're working so hard on DLI. Is it the same thing for that too? We would not be able to secure a grant for that?
Well, DLI is not funded through one single funding source, but we have a funding source that is providing a portion of funding.
So the ones in the amounts that are in Fund 8 are typically the grant ones. Like she said, DLI is kind of split up. So you might see something in Fund 1, like the state fund for it too as well. That's where it kind of gets complicated because it's multiple places that it's being funded at.
One of our
And that's what makes it somewhat complicated because you have to look at each individual thing from 100 different angles. But the ones in Fund 8, from my understanding, they are grant-based for my research and everything like that. Just keep in mind what she said about family literacy, because that money will carry over, so it'll go back in at the end of the year and then it'll come back out of fund balance. All right, is there any more questions on that?
Well, you mentioned auditing expenses.
Mhm.
How much do we pay our auditing firm? I think it's Forbes.
Mhm.
How much do we pay them a year for an annual audit? Is it, they just come once a year to audit us, or is it?
Yes, we are required by law to be audited. So right now, Forbes, I just received their contract today. It's not supposed to go over $44,300.
Say that again, please?
It is not supposed to go over $44,300 for this year. Previous years, I think it's always been in about 30,000-ish range, $30,000 to $40,000 range.
We pay them approximately $30,000 a year to come in once a year to audit us.
30 to 40, yes.
Do we bid that out? I mean, are we just going with them or are we checking with other companies and other?
This year, I plan to stick with Forbes simply because they do a very good job of going back through and making sure everything is where it should be and detailed. And it would be very hard at this point to do a bid because of how we are in the year right now. They start basically in May with a compliance audit and then they come back in July and finish the audit out for the year. And then in the future, I do plan to look into that more and possibly
future.
placing a bid, yes. It would just depend on what's going on, but they do a very good job of making sure everything is where it's supposed to be, which is what you want.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I was somewhat disappointed with this audit compared to the one previous year. And I asked a couple of questions, and I think they sent a junior auditor to give the report to us, and then the manager came on screen and said, "I'm sorry, we can't answer that." And I'm thinking, well, we're paying $30,000+ a year for them to come in twice a year. They should be able to answer something that even I could figure out was askew. And I was not pleased with the quality of the audit we received at all. And matter of fact, others have said that as well.
Okay. Understand?
And I think if we can, we need to put out bids for a to another auditing firm if we're not pleased with the quality of audit that we received this year.
Anything else? We certainly can do that as the board's pleasure, if it's the majority want to do that, but
It would be hard to do it this year.
sure, we
considering how
understand.
late we are. Next year, though, we can definitely look into that and we'll do it.
So they will come in, correct me, help me here. They will come in May.
We start in May, yes. So next month, I just received the contract today. I'll present that next month. And then May, they're walking through the door to start. They start their preliminary, and then they come back in July and finish out
And that will be for,
this year. That's where their audit will be for fiscal year 2024.
Mhm.
Any more questions?
And then for 2025, when will they?
They would, for 2025, they wouldn't come back until next May.
So I understand now why you said it'd be difficult to
Yes, we are,
switch. We're too far along in the game.
exactly. It's a huge time constraint, so we can always look into that.
I would like to look into that, Mr. Chairman. Look into
Yes.
that after
We will.
the July.
We can do that. Have you, let me ask it, have you had conversations with them about some of the board members' displeasure and what you've been notified tonight? Have you?
I have not spoken to them directly about any of your displeasures. I didn't feel like it was my place to unless you guys specifically wanted me to. If you do want me to, I can voice those concerns to them.
Certainly, you know, maybe Dr. Hall, somebody needs to, I mean, you need to know, we need, you know, just as they tell us how we're performing, we want to tell them how they're performing, so.
Right.
And maybe Dr. Hall will do that with you, okay? And you can gather input from the board members about, their likes and dislikes, so you'd be able to give them an assessment of how we think they're doing. And we appreciate them telling us how we're doing.
Right.
But yeah, I would do that in conjunction with Dr. Hall.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, continue on.
That is it for the current budget. This is the budget resolution and it will have to be approved by you guys and then I will need your signature. And I will also need Dr. Hall's signature, so.
Any questions? Comments that we've not already said? All right, so we need a motion to approve.
I make a motion, we approve it.
Motion, Mr. Wagner, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Dr. Blevins, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing, any opposed? Hearing none? Thank you, Ms. Creasy.
Now we move on to next year's.
Next year.
Yep. This is for fiscal year 2025. All right, we're looking at Surrey County specifically, what we're going to take to the commissioners.
April 30th.
Yep, it's coming up.
It is. So we're gonna be there to support you, okay?
Yep.
We'll be there to support you.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Yep.
To make
Sure.
things really, really fun with this presentation, Surrey County their commissioners got together and they voted to change their funding model for capital. So in years past, the school systems, we would request an ADM capital allocation and we'd submit a list of special requests. And they would consider those special project requests on a case-by-case basis. Well, they are no longer doing that. They're getting rid of that funding model and they're switching to a singular funding model. And it is going to be implemented for the 2025 fiscal year. This amount we'll receive will be based on our ADM, which is the number of students that we have in county. We will no longer submit an ADM capital request or special projects request for consideration. So they're just gonna give us money and then that's what we get. So it will be up to us to manage our funds appropriately. What we can utilize this year that we received and how much we're gonna save for large projects and emergencies that come up. And go ahead.
So, like for instance, with the gym, we had to go to the county and request, I think we received 11 million from them. We can no longer do that? Are you-
So I don't know how that's gonna work in the future, because that was, I believe, lottery money that they utilized for that. That's different ballgame. Surrey County gets, I believe, NC lottery money that they can use at their discretion based on, our what we request or whatnot. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's what that was, and that's
No, you're
completely separate from this.
You're right. There's needs, not only, there's tobacco money as well. You know, and so there's special money for that. And then there were special circumstances. Being ADA compliant and other issues that we had to be. So that was a different
So
special project kind of thing.
I don't know what they're gonna do with that yet, because they haven't mentioned it. This is just what they've proposed to these changes. This is what me and Dr. Hall received in the email, and this is what we know right now. But basically, here's an example of what this means for us. And we're gonna look at 2024. So this is based on the old funding model. This is what actually happened for this year. So we get a regular capital allotment amount per student. So we got $115 per student. I think it's been $115 for a few years now. And we had 838 students in district. So we received $96,370. Then we had our special capital request. So we brought up, I think it was 7, 8 requests, and I think they approved maybe 3 or 4 of them. And we always, we get money for technology specifically. That's what we asked for. We had some for Dixon auditorium repairs, things like that. They would do it on a case by case.
Rachel, I have one question.
Absolutely.
I understand what the county is doing based on ADM within the county, because our district is so small. My question would be, how many students do we have out of the county attending Elkin? Wilkes and Yakin, do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I believe it's probably around that 300 and some ish.
336 students.
Probably.
That are out of district.
300 well,
It fluctuates all the
It
time,
fluctuates.
too.
I was told, I'm not sure by whom, but we had 1,217 students at the start of January, I think it was.
That's total students. That's combined in district.
And so if we have 838 out of, district, $335 approximately out of district students. Do we get any ADM from them or for them?
All we do get is, don't we get the ADM from the county that, as long as they release them, isn't that correct? We get the
No, see,
ADM for that.
For local funds, to get that ADM for Surrey County, they have to live in this county. They cannot live outside the county. The state, on the other hand,
Well, that's what I'm saying. The state would give us that.
yes, so that's different. That's a different funding
Yeah,
source. This
we just
is,
wouldn't get the money from the county.
Yeah, we don't get the local.
Mhm.
Get the local county,
you don't get the
with the
local
out of
money
county.
for it.
but we get the state money.
Exactly. We get state money, not local money.
That's always been the case.
Now, if this model would have been implemented this year, this is what we would actually have received. The estimate was we would have received about $314 per student that's in county, and that would have gave us a total of about $263,000. And when you look at this, the difference is about $183,000. So it's not fun, but we'll get through it. Is there any questions on that part?
Any questions? So the county, then they're doing this for Mount Airy and Surrey County as
Yes.
well?
Yes.
Yeah, every.
And, they all said they're gonna do it this way.
Yes.
So I think we've talked about that in a little bit, about how to proceed with that. And I'm sure Dr. Hall will talk to you about how we're gonna, the board, we need to make sure, that we let them know, what we need. And they're usually receptive, so, we want to let them know. And then we want to ask them about, what do you do when you have a bad situation? Heat and air goes out, that kind of stuff, so we'll get more information and detail from them. Commissioner's always been good to help us, so we'll continue.
Okay. So that's what's going on with that. So the technology director and the maintenance director, me and Dr. Hall got together and we discussed this in depth and we decided that we're trying to be frugal. So we're gonna use our capital funds for the following. We're gonna resurface some steps, replace some handrails, get a self-propelled floor scrubber. And our general maintenance and repairs will receive money to make sure everything keeps running, and our technology. The cost of these projects will be roughly $175,000. The rest of this money we plan to put up and only use to save it for a larger project or, an emergency that may arise. Any questions on this part?
Rachel, help me to understand here, please. If we're going to have a difference of 183, 238, then we present to the county commissioners the total cost of these capital funds, requesting 175,000.
That 183,000 is how much we lose from the 446 to the 263. So we would have gotten $263,000. So if we only spend 175, we still have some leeway. That $183,000 there at the bottom is just showing the difference between what we normally would have gotten versus what we did get, or vice versa.
Now, this doesn't include the 2 cents city tax.
No, that's different from this. This is focused on capital.
Okay.
All right. So, all right. Any more questions?
I'd like to make a comment. What you sent us today was, I think, excellent, because it gave us a chance to look over it and see if we, any questions that came up, but I want to commend you on that. That was great.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Um,
doing a good job.
I'm not fully done yet. Normally I would show you at this time our paper that we're going to request per student of our normal ADM. That's that 1,280. What happens is there's 3 school districts in Surrey County, Surrey County Schools, Mount Airy, us get together and they decide what we're going to request. Well, because of all the changes, I think a lot of people probably kind of got, I don't know what to do. So nobody has decided exactly what they're going to request yet. And we normally all request the same exact amount, so we're on the same page. So I was hoping to have that tonight, but from my understanding, some of them may have requested an extension and they still don't know and things like that. So I can't give you an exact number of what we're going to request. Instead, I've talked to Dr. Hall and we agreed that we're probably going to poll you guys on that piece of paper. It's just literally going to be a piece of paper that says, we're going to request, I don't know, like last year, $1,280 per 838 students. And then you would just approve it. So that's what's going on with that right now. But you know what we're going to be spending our money on, at least.
All right, any questions?
Well, I have a comment. I think that, the old statement is, if you ask not, you'll definitely have not. And I think the commissioners have been very generous to us in the past. And I think we need to go asking for a lot more and say, hey, we need it. And we're facing some tough financial times. And we need all the help and assistance that you can give us, that we might keep this ship going in the right direction. Again, if you ask not, the answer is always no. So go and ask for big things and we'll be there to support you and Dr. Hall, or I know several of us, if not all of us will
I
be.
agree. I think all the superintendents are probably on the same page about that. I think, it's better to ask and then someone say no. Like, that's the worst thing that can happen is someone says.
You aim high. We ask for $5 billion, they may only give us $1 billion, but
At least you're trying.
at least we had more than what we had before, so.
Right. So if that's all, that's all I've got. Any other questions?
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Creasy.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate what you're doing. Thank you. All right. Dr. Hall.
Yes, sir.
Field trips.
Yes, sir. Elkin Elementary School, fourth grade, out-of-state field trip to the Virginia Creeper Trail in Damascus for April the 26th. They'll depart here in Elkin at 7 a.m. and return back at 5 p.m. that day from their trek. And if you've never been to that Creeper Trail, I highly suggest it. It's a good time. I just hope the weather is beautiful that day for the kids. I believe they're going to love it.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of order here. When we had a motion, do we still need two more motions? We made a motion for the budget.
Did we not, did we not approve their budget resolution?
We only approved the budget resolution. There are two more.
Did 24, yeah.
We
Okay.
need two more motions and
Well, I thought the Surrey County budget, she didn't have the ADM number, so we're gonna hold off on that one. She's gonna send us the information. So.
You
is
guys
that
will be
correct?
polled.
Huh?
You guys
I
will.
mean, you're gonna be polled, so
So
we
if you
don't,
want to do an act like a approval to be polled back later, or we can come back and reconvene on that. That would be up to you.
we can't approve it without that ADM number.
Correct.
So we'll have to do that one later, but yes, we do need a motion on the budget resolution document that you were shown. So we continue. Is there a motion?
I so move.
So move, Mr. Blackburn, a second.
Second.
All right, second, Mr. Wagner. Any other point of order or something else we want to talk about? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. So that motion's clear. And then we'll wait for the polling for the Surrey County budget. All right, now,
Mr. Chairman, when is it April 22nd that we meet in Dobson with the commissioners?
it's April 30th. April 22nd is our next board meeting, I believe.
April 22nd.
April 30th is the county commissioners. 6 o'clock, April 30th.
Yes,
And it's usually at the old courthouse there in the square.
yes.
Or I can't remember what floor it is, but there's at least one flight of steps.
Oh, you go up, yeah.
With the elevator.
Yeah. At 6 p.m. and encourage you to come if you can. We can carpool or something. I'm riding in that big truck of yours.
$75,000.
So if you show there, we may not get a dime. They may send us a big
That's the
bill.
reason why I'm riding with somebody else. Killing me, man.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the field.
Field trip to
request.
Damascus.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Thank you.
Second.
Back on track.
Second. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Blackburn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right. Personnel report. For tonight, personnel report, March 25th, that was tonight. Is there a motion to approve the?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
So moved. Second.
that.
Second is Jennifer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, motion carries. Announcements. So we got Good Friday coming up, Thursdays, optional teacher work day, Good Friday, no school, Easter holiday, optional work day, free sports physicals. I want to thank those. I think Dr. Order does those. I don't know, but that's a great thing.
Yeah.
Please, we need to make sure we thank them. And, Honor Society induction, April the 5th. That's a wonderful thing. The proms at the barn, at the pond, at Walls Pond. Okay, and then the next board meeting, April 22nd, will be here. And, let's plan on, like we talked about before, 4 o'clock for the close. I thought that, we still have some unfinished business there that'll be okay with the board members. I'd like to go ahead and set that at 4 o'clock. And we'll do the close then. So, and then, April 30th is a Tuesday. I believe, Tuesday night, 6 o'clock in Dobson with the county commissioners. So come if you can.
Just a point of order correction. We have 379 out of district students instead of 334.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone else for the good of the community, the board? Any board member like to say anything to our faithful? Or anyone listening online? Anything left? Anything on your mind, heart? Hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion to adjourn, Dr. Blevins, a second.
Aye. Sorry. I mean.
Second, Miss Jennifer Me. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you so much for coming.